Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. And as you know me, I cannot leave anything alone. So I used the paints in the Meeden palette for quite some time, and I decided to pull out the pans and put my own colors in. Now, these were custom pans, so unfortunately, pans didn't fit, so I put it right in the wells and I added where some little pans where they had the paintbrush. So we're going to swatch these out today. And first up, we have Daniel Smith Bordeaux PV32. Then we have Rublev Alizarin Crimson PR83. Now we have Michael Harding Quinacridone Rose PV19. Daniel Smith Mayan Orange, and they don't have the pigments listed. In our next row, we have Core Neutral Tint PY42 PR122 PB15:3. Holbein Shell Pink PO73 and PW6. This is Lucas Genuine Rose PV19. Which, hindsight, I probably could have used just one of the other reds and lightened it up, but you know how that goes. I want it all. I want it all in one palette. Daniel Smith Potter's Pink PR233. In this row, we go more into our purples. So we start off with Michael Harding's Purple Haze, PG18, PB29, and PO73. Our next up is going to be Daniel Smith Imperial Purple, PB19 and PB29. Michael Harding Belladonna, PB23, PR112, PB29. And our last up in this row is going to be Michael Harding Wisteria, PW6, PR122, and PB29. Now we're going into our blues, and we're going to start off with Daniel Smith Kyanite Genuine, which doesn't have pigment information. It's the natural stone, or so they say. Then we'll be going into Daniel Smith Ultramarine Blue PB29. Then we have Schminke Cobalt Blue Light PB28. And then the last up in this row is going to be Michael Harding's Lavender PW6, PB15, and PB29. This row we're going to have some more blues and blue greens. So we're going to start off with Michael Harding's Payne's Gray, PBK 9, PB 29, PY 42. And then we're going into Core Cerulean Blue Chromium, PB 36:1. Then we have a vintage pigment here with Manganese Blue, PB 33. And our last up in this row is Michael Harding's Prussian Blue, PB 27. Now let's get in with our greens. We have first up in Core Allulose Gray, PBK 19. And as you can see, I have one more space in that top row, so they kind of jog over just a little bit. But I tried to keep them in rows according to their main color. PWC Blue Gray, PB 15:3. Oh, and that Andaluse Gray was PBK 19, if I forgot to say that. Then we have Core Cobalt Teal, PG 50. And our last up in this row is going to be Michael Harding's Bright Green Lake, PY 180 and PG 7. And then as we go back up to the top, we're still continuing with a little bit of greens with Da Vinci Davies Gray, PW6, PBK6, and PG7, which I always think of Davies Gray as leaning green. Then we're in Moss Green with Michael Harding, PY 150, PB 29, and PR 209. Then we go into Michael Harding's Olive, PG 101, PY 180, and PB 15:3. Sorry about the little bit of glare. We're going to take a closer look after we tape pull and do all that good stuff. And our last is Michael Harding's Hooker's Green, PG 36, PR 101, PY 180. Just a few rows left, and we're going to start off with Daniel Smith Buff Titanium, PW 6:1. Handy color to have. I think I have it just about in every palette that I have. Then we go into Daniel Smith Quinacridone Gold, PO 48, PY 150. Then we'll go into Michael Harding's New Gamboge, PY 150, which isn't a true New Gamboge, but this is a really nice bright color. Oh, actually, I think I go up to Daniel Smith Quinacridone Burnt Orange first. Like I said, the top row's kind of jogged over, so. This is the New Gamboge, the PY 150. And then the last in this row is going to be Daniel Smith Hansa Yellow Light, PY 3. And now for our last row, we got Michael Harding's Sepia, PBR6, PBK6. Daniel Smith, Permanent Brown, PBR25 is our next. I love the pigment, the PBR25. I don't know, there's just something about it. It has a really beautiful, like, red undertone to it. I had a little bleeding problem there, so I was trying to clean up my swatches. And here's that Permanent Brown PBR25. It looks really red, but it does dry down more brown. Then we go into Michael Harding, Earth of Cyprus, PBR7. Very nice neutral brown. And then our last is Schmincke Raw Umber, PY43. I'm really happy with how this palette turned out. There'd only be probably one color that I might switch out, which no big deal. We all do that as the palettes evolve. But you'll see in the painting that we're about to do that, and I will put up a reference picture you're more than welcome to use. And we'll go ahead and you'll see how well these work. I'm really pleased. They're some of my most used colors. Nothing like a tape pull, and we'll take a closer look. This way I'll have a nice swatch sheet for the palette. I will use like thick packing tape over it to make sure it's all water resistant. Sorry if you can hear any noise outside. The neighbor's dog is really barking and the wind is really blowing today. So I apologize. And here is my whole palette. I'm really, really happy with the colors that I picked. And I always like having all the pigment information and everything right there. That way if I ever need to fill something up, I know exactly what it is. And here is the sketch and the reference image. You're more than welcome to take a screenshot if you'd like to go ahead and paint it up yourself. And these are a few of the brushes that I'll be using. I'll be using an 8 long by Princeton, a mop brush by Isabey 0, and a Perla brush by Escoda, a number 8 short. And I just always start with the skies for some reason. I think because they're the furthest away and I can kind of get them in the background. I'm actually working in the Hahnemühle 100% cotton sketchbook, just so you have a reference. So the paints take really well to this paper, very easy to. Now I did draw this on location, and of course I always run out of time. This day I was sitting out there and everything happened. They were having like a farmer's market, so the lady was standing in front of me with the great big sign that was happening on the next block to try and get traffic to the other side. And then a couple of people came by on their bicycles. One kid wiped out. I think he was trying to avoid me because I was kind of sitting against this like post across the street from where I was drawing, and he totally wiped out. I was so worried, and the father was like right in front of him and kind of spun back around to kind of check what was going on. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Did he bump into you?" And he didn't bump into me, but I was so afraid that the young boy, I'd say about 10 years old, was hurt. I'm like, "Are you all right?" I think he just took the corner too fast and didn't expect me to be sitting there. I kind of tried to tuck myself away between like the pole that you poke to cross the street. Now there was like 25 of us out there that day. And but the street was so busy with that farmers market going on and just being a Saturday morning in the downtown Gilbert, Arizona area. Cutest little downtown area. If you do go ahead and paint from my reference, go ahead and tag me in it. I'd love to see it. So I think I kind of cropped out a few things. I didn't put in a couple of the street signs or the big light post because I figured it'd cover up too much of the building. And it was kind of hard. I was sitting almost like right by the traffic, by the curb, trying to nuzzle myself so I wasn't in anybody's way because there was so much street traffic. And then I had to sit there and wait to try and get a picture because sometimes you don't finish when you're urban sketching, and that's okay. You can get whatever you can get done in person, but always make sure you take a photo because all of a sudden you need your reference notes, you know? So it was so fun out that day. It was actually a perfectly gorgeous day. The weather was like a perfect 70, sunny, just lovely out. And that's probably why there was so many people out. And you can see the brown of this building getting in. I will post up another one of the reference just so you can see. I just love like the old sign, all the kind of old-fashioned signs, and I love lampposts. I know it's kind of silly. Now this one would have totally fallen off the page, so I actually spun it around. It was actually going towards the street where the actual lamp part was, but my art, my way. So I flipped it around and made it point towards the sidewalk. Some of the trees had no leaves, and I think the one right behind this post didn't have any leaves, but some of them still had some leaves. Here it doesn't get cold, so sometimes they stay kind of evergreen all year round, but I didn't want just a bush, so I made sure that I put some leaves in here. And I'm never sure exactly what color I want concrete. So I actually really like how this turned out. It's kind of a little bit of Payne's Gray and buff titanium. I didn't want to ignore the buildings in the back, so I wanted to give them enough detail. And there was a couple of cute signs back there, so I wanted to make sure I got the secondary kind of whiskey sign and the upper sign that you'll see me paint later up towards the top. And you see the colors pop in right now. This took me, I think I sketched it for about an hour and a half on location. Like I said, there was a lot of action going on around me, so I couldn't just sit there completely still and just pay attention to what I was doing. There was a lot of action around me, which happens, which is part of the fun. So it took a little longer than it normally would, and this took me a little over an hour to paint, maybe about an hour and 20 minutes. and it had some incredible shadows, like reflections going on in all these big windows. And I'm really happy with how the reflections turned out. I didn't do it exactly like the picture, but I thought it would be a little too busy. I think it's always hard to visualize when somebody else is painting it. Like when you're painting something of your own, you can visually see what direction it's going. So I'm going to pop up a little preview of the painting all done so that you can kind of see where we're at and how it's comparing. A test palette with a test with a palette like this is always a good idea. So I needed to change out the water 3 times from this little brass cup. So I need to make sure that my water bottle can fill it a minimum of 3 times to do. Now this is 7.5 by 7.5, the Hanamula paper. So that's about as big as I paint out and about. I also have like a 6" by 6" size. I really like the square format. It keeps me contained, and when I want a longer scene, I just use the whole open spread. So yeah, I would definitely test a palette at home before you go out and about. But this is so comfortable to use. I know smaller, is great, especially when you're traveling long ways, like going on an airplane or something, like the art toolkits, they're so nice. But when you're going to be taking your car and taking a whole bunch of crap because you're going to sit there for a minimum of an hour and a half to like 3 hours to draw something, and space confinements aren't an issue, I figure bring the big one, be comfortable, bring the whole palette. If you want me to show you like my whole setup, because I redid like this whole setup since I'm going out and about so much. About every other weekend I'm going out and about, and it's a setup. It's a little overkill, but if, like I said, if I'm going to sit there for an hour and a half to 3.5 hours, I want to be comfortable. And I might as well if space is not a constraint. You can see here I brought out the Poscas just so that I could go over and do a little bit of details here and there. This sign had like a vintagey like light ups with like bulbs on it, and it's really hard to kind of get a reflection, especially when you're working this small. So I put down like a brighter, like lighter yellow, and then I went over it with kind of like an orangey yellow to kind of maybe have like a halo of that glow around it, and also go around it with the little bulb dots. And of course it was in daylight, so it wasn't fully lit up. I do want to practice a little bit more at like neon type signs and stuff. I think they're really, really pretty. Just adding up a few little details here. I hope this helps seeing the painting in action. I just did it in clips. I didn't do the whole thing. If you'd like some long variety videos, just let me know in the comments to where I don't interrupt it or speed it up. This was done at like 200%, so double the speed, so that you don't have to sit there for each little tiny detail. And there's the finished painting. And then of course I'll show you the scanned in one. I hope you had fun. Thank you so much for joining me today and sticking with me to the end. You have a great day. Bye.